Just south of mainland China, there is a region that might trick you into thinking you are in Las Vegas or maybe even Portugal. Macau feels like a parallel universe where all three of these worlds collide in culture, language, and architecture. This special region of China had fascinated me for a while with its otherworldly architecture and fascinating history. So when I returned to Hong Kong, I knew I needed to take a day trip to see it for myself. And here's how it went. Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to Macau. Macau is a special administrative region of China, and it was just about an hour ferry ride from Hong Kong, and it costs about $20 US to get over here, and it's completely visa free for most citizens, so it's very easy to come over here and check out the Las Vegas of the East. And Macau was a Portuguese colony up until 1999. So it's this very interesting mix of European architecture. You have some old Portuguese ruins, and then you have these really modern, funky skyscrapers, and you have just tons of casinos all throughout here. And we only have about 5 or 6 hours today before we have to go to Hong Kong airport this evening to catch our flights to China. So we only have a couple hours to walk around and just see some of the more historic parts of Macau here, check out a few of the casinos and some of the really cool architecture here. But yeah, very funky little place, just seeing all of this like Las Vegas style architecture and lights and casinos, but then having the Cantonese writing paired with it. It just feels like this parallel universe here. So I don't really know what to expect here, but we've started right beneath the Grand Lisboa Hotel, which is the most iconic building here in Macau. It just has this lotus flower shape as it just towers into the sky, and it comes down to this little point, so the top, it just looks very top heavy, and then at the bottom here you have this amazing golden reflective dome, and then again inside you have casinos, high-end luxury shops. And so we're starting just beneath the Grand Lisboa, and I'm hoping to get a lot more views of this hotel as we walk around. But from here, let's just kind of wander and check out the old town. There's the Senado Plaza, which is one of the kind of central focal points of the old town of Macau. So let's walk that direction and see what we see along the way. We have just walked about a quarter mile from the Grand Lisboa Hotel, and it's been such a strange little walk because you have all of these buildings that have like Portuguese tiles, and even the ground has these like Portuguese stones that have different designs in them. And we've made it to Senado Square, and it feels like we're in a little European downtown. We have this square, it has a bit of a triangle shape, we have this fountain right in the middle, and all around this little plaza we have these pastel colored buildings with these archways and European facades. But then it's so strange because then you'll have like Chinese writing on these pink and yellow buildings, and then on the ground here we have this like nice white and black stone that's swirling, and it feels like the ground that you would see in Portugal. So very interesting to see this European town square in this Chinese city. So anyways, from here we're kind of entering the old town, so we're going to weave our way through some of these older streets of Macau and work our way towards some of the older ruins and some of the forts here in the downtown Macau. Just down from Senado Square, we've just turned the corner here and we came across St. Dominic's Cathedral, which is this beautiful yellow facade of a church that was built in the 1700s. So let's head in and check out one of these churches here in Macau. just went in St. Dominic's Cathedral there, and it's still just blowing me away how European this feels in this little downtown old quarter of Macau here. Going inside, you just had these nice yellow white walls, and it felt like any church you would see in Portugal or Spain or in Europe. So very cool. So we're back out on the old streets of Macau here. There's just some fun little walking streets that we can walk around, some more town squares, more churches. So let's keep exploring. We've just come up this little back alley, up this little hill from St. Dominic's Cathedral, and we're in this Cathedral Square here, and it's this nice little open area. We have this cross, we have a fountain, we have these benches, and then they have all of these mosaic tiles that are exactly what you would see in Lisbon, and it just really has this really cool Portuguese feel. And then Cathedral was built in 1622, and this was the main worship venue here for the Portuguese diocese here in Macau. And it's just really fascinating seeing these old cathedrals, and then right between some of these apartment buildings here, you're catching glimpses of the Grand Lisboa Hotel, which is just that giant gold tower with such a unique modern look to it. And it's a casino, so it's interesting to see these mix of old religion and then the new glitzy casinos here in Macau. So let's see if we can head in and check out the inside of Cathedral. So that was the interior of the Cathedral, one of the main cathedrals here in Macau. And the inside just had this beautiful pastel green, and then there were these side chapels that had some bright yellow and bright pink, and some interesting stained glass, and just some really colorful inside. So anyways, we're back on the streets of the old part of Macau, so let's just kind of keep wandering and see what else we find on our way to St. Paul's ruins. Walking down the Rua de Sao Paulo, which is going to take us to the St. Paul ruins, and there's just tons of people on this walking street. You have all of these shops, and it's like a pedestrian lane, and then right here on the corner we have little Chinese temples. So I think it'll be interesting to see the contrast of the Chinese temples here in Macau right next to these old 400-year-old cathedrals. We have just come down that main pedestrian street here and up these stairs, and we're up on a little hill, and right here we have the facade of the ruins of St. Paul, and you just have the front of the remains of this church that was built in 1640, and in 1835 there was a fire that destroyed the rest of it, but miraculously the front stayed here, and it's a very unique church facade because it mixes both Western European motifs, and then there's some Chinese and some Oriental sculptures that are on the front of this facade here. So it's a very unique facade, and it just has some beautiful sculptures and architecture to it. And then from up here on top of these stairs, you're just looking back on the old part of the city of Macau. Unfortunately, the fog's coming in a little bit, so we've lost the top of the Grand Lisboa Tower, but you can still see it a little bit, and you can see just the really unique shape of that gold skyscraper that we started out at this morning. So anyways, I think we can go through the facade of the church here and check out a little bit of what remains of the inside of the St. Paul's Cathedral here. So let's head in and check it out. So we just entered the ruins of St. Paul, and again, the church was burned down in 1835, so there's not much to the back of the cathedral there, but there's a little crypt that you can go in the back, and then there's a little museum that has some of the remaining artifacts and some paintings that were from the church and from the Macau Portuguese occupation. And yeah, so very interesting. So we have just come out the front of the ruins here, and just to the left is the Mount Fortress, which is a big fort that is a couple stories tall on this mountain that was built in the early 1600s. So let's head over to the Mount Fortress and check that out. We have just made it up to the top of Mount Fortress, and we just have 360-degree views looking out over Macau here. Looking over this way, you can look out over the old town a little bit. You can get a glimpse back down onto the St. Paul's ruins that way, and then over across the river there, we're actually looking into mainland China. It's a little bit foggy, but you can see some of the mountains off that way, and then heading back towards the casino area, you can see the Grand Lisboa again poking into the clouds, and yeah, just this amazing fortress up here that was used for defense. And there's some cannons up here, and it was used as a artillery and military hub here, but there were no cannons pointing towards mainland China as a sign that they were friendly with the Chinese then, but it was more of an outward defense against the sea. So yeah, let's walk around the top of the fortress here and check out some of the views of Macau. So that was the top of the Mount Fortress here. Very cool, very nice views looking over Macau. Again, a little bit foggy, so we're not getting the best view of these skylines, but still you can see the bottom part of this Grand Lisboa Tower, which is just so unique. So anyways, we're gonna start heading back down the fortress here and probably walk a little bit more through the old town, heading back towards the Grand Lisboa. We have to catch our bus to the airport within the next hour. So let's kind of just wander through the old town a little bit, see what other views we come across, and eventually we'll head back to the Grand Lisboa. Just come back down to the old town streets here, and one more little Portuguese aspect of Macau here is they have the pastel de nata, this kind of like egg creamy custard in a flaky pastry, which is just one of my favorite snacks in Lisbon. So I'm gonna eat this as we stroll some of the old streets here of Macau. So we have just made it back down to the Grand Lisboa Hotel, and as we walked through the old town there, we got a couple more cool views of the Grand Lisboa Hotel juxtaposed against some of these older apartment buildings and some of the winding old streets of Old Town. And just what a really crazy building. It seems like it's from a fantasy. It just has such a strange shape, and then this bright gold color, and then at the bottom you have this dome. And I wish we could have gotten more views of it, but we're on a bit of a timeline today, and in fact we have to get going to the Hong Kong airport. We're flying to mainland China tonight. We're going to be checking out Chengdu over the course of the next week. So this about concludes the day trip to Macau, but a very doable day trip. If you're in Hong Kong, you can take the ferry or bus and you could be here, hang out for the day, and if you had more time you could hang out into the evening. And one thing we didn't even really touch here were all of the casinos. There's a whole nother part of Macau, which I'll have to come back some other time to show you, that has the world's largest casino, the Venetian. There's like an Eiffel Tower, there's replicas of Big Ben and the Parliament building in London. So there's a lot more you could do here in Macau and see and experience. But today we saw most of the main sites that we wanted to see here in the old town, and it's just really interesting seeing this old Portuguese architecture and Portuguese language right next to these modern skyscrapers and casinos and the Chinese language. And it's just this really strange mix of cultures that you just don't see anywhere. Like, it really felt like we were in Europe most of the day today, just walking around some of those old town streets of Macau. So really cool. Really makes me want to go back to Europe and see some more of Portugal. And yeah, just like even all the Portugal tiles, the Portuguese food, Portuguese architecture, the language, and yeah, lots of cool stuff to do here in Macau. But again, we're gonna jump on the bus here, head over to the Hong Kong International Airport, which should just be about a 45-minute drive away. So that's it for Macau. I'll see you guys next time in mainland China.